everyone. Thank you for joining us today with 10,000 Roads to Financial Independence. Today we have Chat to come and give us a chat. Sorry, I gotta play with the name a little bit. Chat is a very successful serial entrepreneur who has been a spa owner before and then now have reached her financial independence through being a full-time investor in real estate. So very glad to have you, Chat, today.
Thank you so much, Elisa. Thank you for having me. What an honor.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank
you. So I met Chad through a online multifamily women's forum, and it's a very supportive forums for women investors who wants to kind of get into the games for multifamily. And I think it's a wonderful thing they are doing, Michelle and Chat's doing, in terms of bring awareness of like women can be successful multifamily investors as well. So I want to kind of get into a little deep, like, all our guests, we like to kind of go a little deep with our guests in terms of the interview. So walk us back a little bit, Chat. Like when you're thinking about your entrepreneur seat that kind of, planted into you, who do you think has the biggest influence, or is there a moment of when you reflected later on? Is there a moment where you kind of decided, hey, this person or this incident gave me a very big impression in terms of me becoming the entrepreneur I am today?
I would say my husband, definitely my late husband. He was always an entrepreneur. He had a successful CPA firm. He was a forensic CPA here in Los Angeles. Aside from that, he was also multifamily and real estate investor. I remember he used to had syndicated real estate buildings. I mean, not buildings, but multi-million-dollar homes here in Los Angeles, and then they flip it and stuff like that. I would hear them talk about that, but I was never a part of it because, it's like I'm a wife. I don't have to worry about that. I used to remember him talking about mobile homes and stuff like that. So yeah, he was definitely an entrepreneur. He never had the mind, his mindset was never to work for anybody. Mm-hmm. And so that really gave me an inspiration, and he definitely motivated me.
Got you. And how did you met your late husband?
Well, believe it or not, I just met him at the gym. My girlfriend got me this 1 month pass of this like really shishi gym at that time, 30 something years ago. And I said, why would I go there and when, I can't afford this? No, I'm getting you 1 month pass. So 1 month, I go in there, and then sure enough, I meet him. And so the rest is history.
Yeah. That's awesome. So that's kind of talked about a little bit about the art of networking a little bit over there and the gym.
You know what? A little story about that. I was working out, right? My first time to work out. And then he comes and introduces himself. And I said, and then he says to and he asked me, where do you work? And I said, I work up down in Bradstreet. And he said, oh, who's your boss? I told him my boss at that time, the vice president, and he said, oh, I send you guys clients. And I went to, I was like, oh my God, what a small world, right? So he sent us new business. So that was a small world,
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. So, so you met him. Now, before that, even in your childhood, is there some incidences or influence in your life that kind of like made you thought about, this is okay? Because we're later on going to get into your story about there's a lot of unknown uncertainty that came your way pretty soon. But like that resiliency, if you kind of think back a little bit more, like what kind of made you?
Yeah. In the Philippines, almost everyone's dream is to go to America. Mm-hmm. It's the land of milk and honey, as they say. It's the land of opportunity. So as a little girl, that was also my dream, because I was so much more inspired by my aunt, who was an exchange student at Vanderbilt University and became a nurse. And so when she would visit us in the islands, and she would bring this Barbie doll, that was my first time to see a Barbie doll, I was like, oh my God, one day I'm gonna go to America. And then she would bring us to the beach, right?
Yeah.
And then when it's the sun is setting, she would tell us, see, the sun is setting in America, the sun is rising. So ever since then, when she went back to America, ever since then, I would go to the beach, look at the sun setting, and I would say to myself, one day I will be there in America when the sun is rising while the sun is setting here.
Yeah.
Also, I did not know that was already like manifestation as a child. It was already working. I was already visualizing myself, you know.
Yeah.
And then college came. I really wanted to become a nurse, because in the Philippines, the license to come to America, because they have open employment here in America with Filipino nurses. The license to come here to America was to become a nurse. So immediately, as soon as I graduated high school, I wanted to become a nurse. And my dad said, no, everybody's a nurse in the family. So you take the accounting. So I was very unhappy, but it's a cultural thing where our parents' wish is a command. So I followed that. I was very unhappy, but I said, there goes my dream. But I never gave up on my dream. What I did was, I said, okay, I'm going to be an accountant. I will not be able to go to America, but no, I'm going to work in the Philippine Airlines so that I can get a free ticket to go to America. Because I knew that the benefits in working there, that if you work 2 years, you are able to get an international ticket to get out of the Philippines and to go anywhere you want. So that's what I did. 2 years, and 1 day later, I went to HR, got my ticket, plane ticket, a round trip international ticket, and then went to U.S. Embassy, and they asked me, why do you want to go to America? I want to go see Disneyland.
Yeah. That's awesome.
10 years multiple visa entry, and so the rest is history.
Yeah, so apparently you got to have multiple visits to Disneyland for over 10 years. That's awesome.
I went to visit Disneyland a week later, but because my aunt has been here already in Los Angeles, and she was ready for my attorney to convert me into working visa and stuff like that. Because about 37 years ago, it was so easy to convert from a tourist into working visa and stuff like that. So. Yeah, I was 2 weeks later, I got me a job in a corporate world that became Dun & Bradstreet, and I was a trust accountant there for over 11 years.
Yeah, there's so many pieces to kind of tease out over there. It's amazing that we're kind of life throw you somewhat a curveball. You kind of figured out a way, setting the intention of your goal is like so important. You kind of figure out a way to kind of work around it. So working towards, using that piece of disadvantage into your advantage, because I can bet you're probably thinking like accounting, but accounting is so universal because it's numbers, right? Numbers are so universal. It's not subject to languages. And then how you do accounting on properties is one way or the other, but it's so much easier to learn than if you have to be a nurse and then it become international to be a nurse that way. Yeah, that's awesome story.
In hindsight, it worked out so much better for me because now I can analyze spreadsheets, and I can analyze properties, because I have the trust. The accounting background. In hindsight, it became so much better. But before, I used to be very unhappy and not, I did not like what my parents wish for me, but now
Yeah.
I'm thankful.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. So walk us back now a little bit, just kind of fast forward a little bit. Now, you told me, you shared with me before this interview that your story about losing your husband, and that really kind of shaked up your world. I can't imagine losing someone that you're so dear with, but not only that, as women, oftentimes our husbands are the breadwinner, and so losing that, dependent, like you're dependent on the person, and so losing that, especially you had a child as well, right? A child or children as well, in this case. So I can't imagine the situation what you're being dealt with. So can you kind of share with us a little bit about how that is like, and how did you kind of pick up the pieces after that?
Yeah, you are so right. My husband was in finance, as I told you. So because of that, I never had to worry about the numbers, and I never had to worry about any kind of um, documents regarding our finance. And he was the breadwinner, obviously. I had my spa, but I had that just because I wanted my freedom. I wanted my own independence and flexibility while parenting my son. So that's why I decided to open that spa from the corporate world.
Mm-hmm.
So and then he passed suddenly. It's interesting because we were at the stage where we were planning our retirement. He was working so hard. We were both working hard
Mm-hmm.
just to create a nice, retirement lives.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to go travel the world. We were going to enjoy, life. But then as life, you never can plan it.
Yeah.
Things can easily change in a blink of your eye, in an eye. So it's like he suddenly passed of a heart attack, and then that left me to like, what now? you know
Mm-hmm.
then
Yeah.
and initially it was a very fearful stage for me, and I said, you know what, I really need to have something solid for me to lean on, and to, well, of course, because my husband was in finance, he was able to sort things out as far as taking care of me, but
Mm-hmm.
I need to at least preserve that, or let that grow.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I decided to close my spa, and because it requires so much of me, my
Mm-hmm.
presence, emotionally and physically. I just didn't have that at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to just look for a way to really have my financial independence without having me to work too much,
Mm-hmm.
make my money work at that time.
Yeah.
And I discovered this uh, like infomercial at 2
Yeah.
o'clock in the morning, and they said, the flipping. So I went and had a seminar. Fast forward, I lost my money there because I did everything wrong. I did not vet any of those group.
Mm-hmm.
I could not find those people that I paid supposedly coaching. So, but because
Mm-hmm.
of that, I used that to propel me into focusing and finding more about real estate. I discovered podcasts like this.
Mm-hmm.
I discovered books, real estate books and then I discovered multifamily
Mm-hmm.
investing. And that's when I realized multifamily investing, there's a scalability. I could be there's an option for me to just be limited, hands off, more hands off, and let my money work. And so that's what
Yeah.
I loved about the business, and the scalability, of course.
Yeah.
And so it's teamwork. It's not just a one person, whereas
Mm-hmm.
in the flipping, you're alone, or you could have a partner, but it's almost just like a job.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided that multifamily is the way, the asset class is the way for me to be invested in. And once I decided, I went fully immersed as far as education, networking, and just about anything that will make me learn about the business, including leading meetups and including seminars, mastermind, and founding women's group, just like the women's group that you mentioned with Candace Pilgrim and Michelle Appelt, which is called MultiFamily Women's Mastermind. So I really decided I was very intentional and in going fully immersed in the industry, just so I'll have the full understanding and full knowledge about the whole business. And I'm here now.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. So great story to kind of pick yourself up a little bit. Now, walk me back a little bit to that moment when you lost your really loved ones. What is that like? How long did it take for you to kind of pick yourself up and going?
It did take longer than I should have. I waited for him to come home. It's the shock. It's the shock of my system that I could not believe. I was in denial. So I waited for him to come home for over a year. I did not want to get out of the house unless my trust attorney, my financial manager would like to meet with me and sell. We had to sell his practice, his firm, all that stuff. So all these things. Other than that, I would never go out of my house.
Yeah. So it's good to know that it's emotional draining, as well as you have to deal with all these financial things, which you weren't prepared for before, because he was taking care of all that.
Yes. Because he was taking care of all our finances. I did not have to worry about that. So now all of a sudden, in like 24 hours, I had to deal with everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when you mentioned about waiting for him to come home, did he pass away in the house, or did he
He passed away in UCLA. We were 8 minutes away, about 10 minutes away from UCLA emergency. But I think it's just the denial. My grief therapist would say it's the denial. It's normal. So,
So you probably picked it up piece by piece. In these situations, what would you kind of tell a viewer if this is something that happened to them? What was kind of like the anchor or the piece, like the first couple pieces that you found really helpful for you to kind of deal with that?
Thank you so much for asking that question, because that's very, very important. First of all, I had to go into group grief therapy, and so that helped a lot, but it's almost a necessity. It's like I didn't have any choice. That I better get up here now. I better do something, or I will just be left by the train. So I will need to do this. For some reason, one day I just picked the pieces back up, and I just did things. But the reason why I say this is very important question is because a lot of widowed women, divorced women ask me this question: how did I? You just have to have the number one reason why. It's a very strong why. You just have to have a very strong why would you get up and move and get going again. Because I imagine my husband, if my husband was alive, he would be the first one to say, hey, get up there, don't be lying there, don't be depressed, your life is it's going, you need to move on, you need to do something. So
and what was your why that kind of like helped you?
My why is, of course, my son. I have one son. He just turned 31. He's my best friend, and but that's my why, because he was so worried about me, and he was gave me the courage to move on, and and that's my biggest why. And my family, of course. And also now I've learned to also try to give back. And one of the biggest whys is to give back and help those widows that are that went through what I went through, that I hope that they don't have to go through this and longer than they should.
Yeah.
Just
And then
inspire them.
yeah, and then unfortunately, it's not an event that you can be out of control of.
No.
But being there, having a person like you there to kind of listen to them or giving them a little bit guidance, even just the supported listening,
Yeah.
helps tremendously
Yeah,
for them
for
to kind
sure.
of
Because
go over that.
there's a big difference between talking to a therapist
Hmm.
and talking to somebody that went through with
Right.
everything, that can empathize and sympathize and have a full understanding.
And knowing that there is a light at the end of the
There's
tunnel,
light at the end of
because
the tunnel for
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, switch gear a little bit. And thank you so much for sharing that story with our
Sure,
listener,
sure.
because I think that's such a hard event to get through, and for some people they never got through that. So props to you for like be able to kind of pick up yourself and go. And then the other thing I want to kind of really touch on this a lot is we talked about these situations because a lot of women are in your situation. Basically, their financial decisions, all their husbands are making them.
Yeah.
And this is another reason why, this event doesn't have to happen for you to be more literate in terms of financial decision, to kind of participating into that as a family.
Yeah.
So, for any unfortunate situation that happens, or even just kind of learning like how do I actually get involved into investing, that there's a big kind of wake up call over there too.
Sure.
Yeah. So great. So moving forward a little bit, so I'm gonna go back the timeline because I picked up, you mentioned about your spa. So tell us a little bit about when you started your spa, because you were working in corporation. Because I think a lot of our viewer is looking for that switch between the daytime job when they're working for someone, because there's that deep desire of not being life not fulfilled essentially, and then switching into being an entrepreneur, because that's also a very scary kind of jump.
Oh, yeah.
So how did you decide to make that jump, and what are some things that you did very successfully with that?
Thank you. The reason why it made it easy for me to switch from corporate world to entrepreneur owning the spa is because, again, another why. I needed to have a flexibility and control of my time to raise my kid at that time. He was a little baby boy. He was a baby boy, and when you're raising a kid, there's so many activities that you have. But my boss at that time did not have any empathy, did not have any understanding, and would insult me or give me a hard time whenever I say, "Can I bring my son to the doctor's appointment?" So. Again, as I said to you, my husband was my number one, supporter, and he said, "Why don't you just have your own business so that you don't have to deal with these people?" That's how it came about,
Gotcha. Yeah.
And then I opened my own spa, but then
and why spa? Like, how did you decide spa out of all businesses?
Yes, all business, right?
Yeah.
It's because I always wanted to become a nurse.
Yeah.
And at that time, I went back to nursing school. But then when I realized the AIDS, there was a problem with AIDS at that time, and so we didn't even know how you get contracted, just like we don't know how we get, it's like, so at that time I was super, super careful because I didn't want to come home with my baby and God forbid he'll get AIDS or something like that. So I did not pursue that. So I once again, my husband said, "Why don't you become this esthetician?" My client, who's a nurse at that time, in Cedar Sinai, became this a nurse esthetician, and she's doing really well. Well, I believe him because he knows the numbers, right?
Yeah.
And so he said, "Let me set a lunch with you," and her name was Linda, and see if that's what you want to do. And again, another networking, another mentoring. She was so nice, and she said, "Chat, I couldn't be happier. I cannot be dealing with dying patients anymore," and stuff like that. And so and
Mm-hmm.
said, look, this one, I make people feel happy, feel good, and the money is great.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided to do, but I knew that I was just going to do a small scale because my purpose was to just have my independence and just have
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of income so that I can be flexible and be able to parent my child.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of to designing your job around your lifestyle, the
Yeah.
lifestyle that you wanted to intend
Yes.
to live, and which is something that I think we always teach our students is like you have to picture out what your life look like,
Yeah.
and then you can design the things around it, because corporation jobs has trained us in a way that we like design our life around our jobs.
Around our job. Yes.
Yeah, which you gotta have to have the mindset changes over there.
Yeah.
That's fantastic, because
And
you just,
also, Elisa,
yeah.
let me add this one, that if and whenever you decide to do something, whether it's owning a spa, whether becoming a florist or something, you have to be fully immersed in it. You have to be really fully in it. That's what I did. Once I decided that from trust accountant to owning a spa, I wanted to make sure that I'm fully immersed in that business. I went to train in Switzerland. Thank God for my husband being so very supportive. And Tokyo, I became, I became really good at it. And I had my celebrity clients and stuff like that. I'm fortunate that I was in a very good neighborhood where they all live in the area. So once I decided to become in the beauty industry, I really got fully immersed.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing going to MultiFamily. I'm now fully immersed.
Gotcha. And then, so how did you get your first customer, or first couple customer, and then obviously that kind of paved the business for it to grow?
It's a marketing trick, because at that time, spa was one of the hottest businesses to get into. We're talking 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And so because of that, what I did was I gave discounts in the neighborhood. I gave grand openings and grand opening discounts, and so that's when, but I was just very lucky that the neighborhood that I am in are very, very close, and they started bringing in clients, and that's how it just evolved.
So you probably started with a few friends, and then that because you deliver great service. So that did become kind of like a referral network, if we just have to do the analogy.
Most of my clients, because they were very wealthy, they did not even want me to have a website. They did not want me to, so I took it at that. I did not have any website. Because I was very happy with who clientele were.
Yeah. It's amazing because the late stuff that I was reading is from Tim Ferriss, which we all know, his 4 hours work week. So I've been kind of listening to his podcast, and he talks about this concept of 10,000 true fans. So essentially that's kind of like you have an exclusive list of fans, in your case, your wealthy clients, and then they give exclusive referral, and you didn't even need to be everywhere in the internet in order to establish that.
For sure.
It's amazing tips with like networking queen chat over here.
That goes back to quality, quality clientele versus quantity. Like quality investor, like I could have just one investor and I'll be done. You know what I mean? So quality, it's all about the quality of your connections.
Yeah, absolutely. And then especially relationships based on quality. Yeah, that's amazing. So so you grow your spa a little bit more, and I'm guessing because at some point, due to your limitations of hours and etc., you actually have to say no to some of the clients as well. And so that kind of grows its own even pace. Can you walk us through about, did you have any employees? Because you intentionally said it's small, but what is your setup?
I had a total of 4 employees. that was enough. I did not want to get any bigger. I had like clientele that were offering me money. Here's like 500. I wanna be a partner. Let's grow this one into a big one.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't interested, because then that's gonna become a stress for me. Then I will lose my flexibility with parenting. I had to be focused in my why.
Yeah.
It was very tempting, because I had a lot of clients that had a lot of money, well, lady clients that had a lot of money, that wanted to be involved in the spa business, because the spa business at that time was a very sexy business, but I had to focus on my why. Why am I in the spa business? It's because I wanted to raise my son,
Yeah. And it's not just I guess like again, quality over quantity, and it's like the intention was it's to support my lifestyle, not like another super stressful job over there. Yeah. So okay, so fast forward a little bit, because life throw you a curveball, and then so that's when you probably decided, also maybe around the same time you decide, because you just don't have the energy or focus to even I can't even imagine you will operate a spa during these situations. So you decided to kind of close out what you have over there, and then switching into multifamily. So walk us through like kind of your process of learning, getting up to speed with multifamily, because we have a lot of listener, given that we do this business, a lot of listener listen to us, and they'll try to pick out the pieces, nuggets on like, how do I get into multifamily? They make it sound like it's such a very difficult thing. But can you kind of walk us through like, how did you like embrace the knowledge and your formula to kind of being successful?
I went to boot camp by Radcliffe. I don't know if you know Radcliffe, but I went to a boot camp. They were I told you I discovered podcasts, and I was listening to his podcast, and they said in 3 days I will be there in Los Angeles. And so I called right away, pulled over from the freeway and called, and do you still have the VIP ticket? Because I knew that that's another thing. If you are to decide to network, you have to know and be intentional with your networking. So what did I do? I bought the VIP ticket, because I knew that I will be surrounded by the real core of great quality people. So immediately, if I'm not going to be able to get the VIP ticket, that to me, as far as I'm concerned, it's a waste of my time. But no, it's not really, because you can network in everything. But I just felt like I needed to do the VIP. And so and that propelled me into, because it really opened my it's like almost like a epiphany. It's like, wow, this is where I can scale. This is where I can I can do it. Because if I want, I could do it as hands off as I want, or full hands on as I want. So the only thing is, I was very fearful. I was still in the mindset of very fearful. So I did not trust anybody at that time. So, but because of Radcliffe, he changed some mindset in me. And so there was a mind shift, so that I started trusting but verifying. You have to trust, but you have to verify.
Right.
Educate yourself. I educated myself. I read books. I told you everything that I needed to do. Listen to podcasts. I had a mentor, a coach, a business coach, and a personal coach. That's, to me, is a very good investment, because you're buying into their, you're saving your time by not committing their mistakes that they went through.
Right.
So that's a very good investment as well. And so and then after that, I made a decision to invest as a limited partner. And I was very fearful, of course, but I was fortunate to.
And can you explain to our viewers a little bit about the limited partner?
Okay. as a limited partner, you're not part of the management. You don't have to do anything but receive your check from once you invest. It's a syndicated deal, so
Mhm.
it's kind of like buying a security, you know.
Yeah.
So
Like passive investors
passive
in, yeah.
investor, yes.
Yeah.
So I was hands off, but because the syndicators that I invested in, they allowed the investors to learn. So I went and made sure that I went to walk through. I flew from Los Angeles to Ohio, and
Mhm.
spent time with these people, the syndicators, and that's when I realized, wow, this is really. And I saw the asset, and I was so impressed.
Mhm.
And they knew what they're doing, and they're good people. And so instead of investing the minimum, and I'm glad I invested three times the minimum, just
Mhm.
and that was the best decision that I've ever had, you know.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
once you start doing that, your fear gets lesser and lesser, because what I did was I've made myself available in all networking
Yeah.
to 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 build a rapport and a relationship, and to get to know all these great syndicators.
Right.
And so now I know who are the great operators. I know
Mhm.
who to stay away from.
Yeah.
I know, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm just so fortunate that I really took the time to network and get to know the core people that I wanted to align with. And
Yeah.
of course, educating and what kind of asset class do I
Mhm.
invest in. And, you know, because there's a lot of asset classes that
Mhm.
you can
Yeah.
choose from. So um, that's how I got involved. And so the limited partnership, the passive investing, is the best way to start with, because the more that you do that, the more that you get acclimated, and then say, I can become an active and become a GP. That becoming a GP just came naturally, raising
Mhm.
money, because then one, I needed to invest some of my money, my personal
Yeah.
money also. And also I do have network of, you know, high network in the
Yeah.
people I can, you know.
Because you're the networking queen, right? So
Yeah.
your first name is Chat. Yeah. How can you not be a networking queen?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
happens when you network. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
don't forget, I was also in the spa business.
Right.
So also my husband had a CPA firm here in
Mhm.
Brentwood who had very high net worth. So I haven't even tapped those people yet.
Right.
I
Yeah.
wasn't intending to, but
Mhm.
people are starting to come to me now,
Mhm.
because they didn't trust me before. I just came from a beauty business, and then what's she doing in a
Mhm.
multifamily business now? But they're slowly coming to me now, like,
Mhm.
hey, I see that you're doing well. So they're
Yeah.
slowly coming to me now. So now I'm gonna start to, you know.
Yeah. And then, one of the things that recently one of my mentor, Kenny McRae, have said this, which is, if you did the projects and there's good track records, this
Yeah.
is the best way to build your audience.
Yes.
So even like, don't get like super busy, like in the beginning, try to get everybody in there, but
Yeah.
it's through these track records, it's a long-term relationship building
For
thing.
sure.
So through long-term track records, that's the best way to build the audience. So yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
So that's very smart of you, be able to kind of bring your inner circle of people and helping them making profits. And then in addition, then kind of grow that circle a little bit bigger. The same formula that I noticed how you grow the spa business, which is a few people to start with, and then through referral networks on track records.
For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
It's almost like everything almost are like organic.
Mhm.
I think for me that's the best thing anyways.
Yeah.
And I just, somebody asked me before, what's your secret then? I said, I have no secret. My secret, I guess, is to be me, and integrity goes a long way.
Mhm.
Authenticity, integrity. And
Right.
if people don't trust you, or, you know, then there's nothing that you can do, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I have to have trust in you and faith in you, and so I'm just being me. There's no
Yeah.
secret.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I think there is some formulas our viewers can definitely like learn from, our viewers, listener can learn from, because there is a pattern of networking, and it's really putting that weight on emphasis on building long-lasting quality relationships versus going to breadth, and then setting the intentions to going after what you want to, and
Yeah.
see that piece kind of fall into places. You know, for a lot of vision person like you and I are, it comes very naturally, but for a lot of folks who are executors, this may not be coming very naturally, right? So that's when you are very good to like partner up with another person, like the executors was a visioner, and then the vision person was the executor.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for all that information. I noticed that you talked about learning on like podcast and etc. Do you have any recommendations on like the best podcast or the top 3 that you have listened to and you really kind of resonated during your period of learning?
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Podcast, definitely Lifetime Cash Flow.
Mm-hmm.
And what else? I remember listening to um, Mon, Monique. It's a
Monique. Yeah, Monique him.
because because
Yeah, the real
it's
estate goddess, I believe.
yeah, it's a women's thing. And but there's so many podcasts right now, like Kyle and Lolita's podcast, very informative. There's so many podcasts right now that I was like,
Yeah.
line them up all, you know.
Yeah.
So, right now I'm gonna be listening to yours for sure.
Thank you. We're a little bit different. We're not really focused on multifamily exactly, but yes, thank you so much.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and then what are the top 3 books you would recommend someone when they first start doing multifamily investing to read upon?
Okay, definitely Rich Dad Poor Dad changed my mindset on that one. Because I have all these things. This one, Think and Grow Rich, and Crushing It. These are
Think and Grow Rich.
you know. Yeah. So and there's a lot more of the what's the I'm having a mental blank, but
No worries.
The Bible, Joe Fairless.
Okay. I
so,
think it was the real estate syndication or one of the books.
Like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put the stuff in the show notes below.
Downstairs as well. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. And as far as psychology books, mindset books, why am I having a mental blank? But the ones that I do every morning. Oh my gosh!
Miracle Morning.
Miracle Morning
by
Hal Elrod.
Yeah, Hal Elrod. Yes.
That and so feel the fear, but do it anyways. It's in my podcast. That's always my go-to. And The Road Less Traveled. Those 3 psychology books are really, really great for me.
That's awesome. I've added a few to my mental library, so over here to read. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So, and other things that I have a question for is also, where do you go from here? So you've reached kind of financial freedom from passive investing and now kind of become a more active investor. And so where do you kind of picture yourself in 5 years from here?
In 5 years, I'll be 65. Oh my gosh. I will.
You do not look a day like it.
I just turned 62 days ago.
Wow.
But Elisa, I have so many things that I really, really want to be able to help and be philanthropic, with philanthropic projects. So I have things going on right now that I will be able to talk about in the future. But right now, that's my why. And
Mhm.
so therefore, if I can make more money and if I can scale more, the more that I can share, right? And of
Mhm.
course, being able to share my family and do with my family and my son, of course. And
Mhm.
I love to travel a lot.
Mhm.
So hopefully with this COVID, that I will be able to travel more.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Well, you're in LA, right? So we're probably visiting soon in
Oh,
the
awesome.
winter.
Let me know.
Yeah,
I'm
would
here.
love to social distancingly meet.
Yes, social distance. And you're in
Definitely.
Seattle, right?
Yes, we're
Yeah.
in dreary Seattle right now because
Yeah.
the weather is about to turn pretty great here. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, chat today. And how does people find out about you?
Well, I'm very active right now in my social media, which
Mhm.
is, Chat Sarmiento Steinwald in Facebook and chat.sarmiento.steinwald in Instagram. And my website, which is still under construction, is
Mhm.
chasedequitypartners.com. And so that I will be available by then, by the time your podcast,
Yeah.
so chat at chaseequitypartners.com is my email going to be.
Gotcha. And then we're going to put all that stuff in the show notes over here so you
Okay,
guys can kind of check it out, chat. Thank you so much, chat, for your time today.
thank you,
And
Elisa.
we look forward to doing business with you and
Oh
have
yeah,
you meeting you in
that would
LA.
be so awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.